things just got weirder. Late that night, I got a call from Reese to meet her down the lab. Intrigued, I went along. Reese was buzzing like a short circuit when I got there. She'd combed through the remains of Argenta's attacker and wanted to show me what she'd found. It was badly burnt, but I knew what it was. I had one implanted myself. It was a Cortex chip, used to record sensory data on its way to the brain, and it proved the pilot must have been ex-military. This was big news, and I turned around to say so, but the barrel of a Peacemaker 2 suggested that Reese had a problem to discuss. She'd secretly run checks on Tachikawa's avionics, and eventually tracked down an advanced cryptovirus. I told her what had really happened on the mission, and why I'd had to lie. Reese wasn't convinced, so I poured out everything. Elaine, my suspicions, the lot. Finally, she put the gun down. The virus in the Cortex chip meant only one thing: a traitor. Could it be Horton? We had to tread carefully. Reese and I agreed to keep quiet about this information while she worked on a virus killer. It looked like I'd got my first out.
The situation looks grave, people. That full-scale airborne attack on President Argenta has pushed Krakow over the brink. They have effectively declared war on Nanosoft. Nanosoft claim they're victims of overt corporate rivalry and request G-Police protection. They've warned us that, in addition to their new weapons, Krakow also have access to military equipment which was supposedly decommissioned after the war. It seems that Krakow and a few other corporations secretly stockpiled these weapons after the collapse. And it looks like a lot of them made it here to Callisto. We need to be ready for anything out there. In view of their cooperation, we must comply with Nanosoft's request. I want Krakow's private little war shut down before it rips Callisto apart. The rules of engagement have changed. Any Krakow vehicle may now be fired upon as soon as it is identified. We have also decided to authorize the use of military-grade weapons. Mission briefings are at 0400 hours tomorrow. Good luck. Dismissed.
Now, Nanosoft had joined the fun. They'd been lying to us all the time, and it looked like Horton had bought it all. He couldn't be that dumb. All my suspicions about the virus and the Cortex chips came flooding back as I stormed into his office and accused him of selling us out. Horton was a cool one, all right. Didn't even blink an eyelid. Turned out, he'd always suspected Nanosoft but couldn't gain enough evidence. Being aware of the traitor, Horton had hidden his suspicions to keep Nanosoft off his back, while he methodically took Krakow to pieces. Hell, you had to admire the guy. He'd even tried to cover our backs on that last mission. A recon patrol under Ricardo had been secretly dispatched to warn against any Nanosoft first strike. It was just bad luck that the patrol got jumped. Ricardo had suffered a downed comlink just before his wingman got flamed. By the time he got back with the news that Nanosoft were attacking, it was too late. The traitor was still loose, but at least the data dump from Krakow's HQ promised to be interesting. With Krakow out of the way, we could now put the heat on Nanosoft. Horton planned to fill us all in at the next briefing. I went to check on Ricardo to see if he was okay.
Well done, team. Krakow are now definitely out of the picture. Despite setbacks, the last mission was a success. The data we acquired on both Krakow and Nanosoft is damning. It seems Nanosoft have developed a way of cracking military Cortex chips. As you know, these chips save out the user's brain map when they die. Nanosoft haven't yet been able to replicate this information, but they found a way to hardwire the chips into machinery. With the aid of a personality suppressant program, these stored skills and abilities are being used to drive Krakow's automated weapon systems. Which means, yeah, they've been using our own pilots against us. Why the two corporations fell out, we don't know, but it was a lucky break for us that they did. Nanosoft have kept quiet about the attack on our troops. They obviously know the extent of the information we have on them and are gonna take action. We've only got a limited amount of time. We've got to plan our offensive fast before Nanosoft can launch theirs. We've already witnessed some of Nanosoft's military capability, so we can safely assume that they have access to the same weaponry as Krakow. To make matters worse, the data dump contained references to some sort of super weapon. Unfortunately, the nature and location of this weapon were not retrieved. I couldn't alert Earth authorities until Krakow were out of the picture. Nanosoft would have definitely intercepted the transmission and jumped on us. Unfortunately, Callisto has now entered Jupiter's shadow, and that means we have to hold out for nearly 16 more days before we can even send for help. I won't lie to you, the next few weeks are gonna be tough. So keep it tight, people. Mission briefings are at 0400 hours tomorrow. Good luck out there. Dismissed.
Nanosoft's big offensive had faltered. They'd given it their best shot and we'd held them. Just one more big push. Yeah. Where had I heard that one before? The missions were getting hotter, and we were all shaky from lack of sleep. I don't know what drove the other pilots, but for me it was cold rage. The thought of those butchers killing Elaine for her pilot skills had kept me going through the past few weeks. I still wasn't happy about Horton's assignment here. He'd claimed it was a last-minute change of orders. His old friend at the Ministry had promised him Mars, but had died in an unexplained flyer accident days before he should have stamped the paperwork. It felt like Nanosoft's work, but why the hell did they want him here? He had to be their worst problem. His military mind was going to be their downfall. For the others, the main worry was Nanosoft's super weapon. We still had no idea what it was, or when it would be unleashed.
You're doing well, people. I know it's been tough, but we're starting to turn the tide. Nanosoft are still putting up a hell of a fight, but we've now pushed their forces back to their corporate dome. Our first objective is to set up a forward base, as close to Nanosoft's dome as possible. Using this position to reduce mission times, you'll fly multiple sorties to recapture the GP precinct inside the dome. Once this position is secured, the next objective will be to take out all of Nanosoft's communications. When these go down, their forces will be in a state of confusion, hopefully even panic. That's when we'll make our big push. Some of you will be using the new XAG-90 Venom on these missions. This bird is the wrath of God in the right hands, but remember, all the bugs haven't been ironed out yet, so don't get cocky out there. Nanosoft may be on the defensive, but they're certainly not beaten yet. Mission briefings are tomorrow at 0400 hours. Good luck out there. Dismissed.
Reese met me as I landed. Speak, the internal affairs investigator, was with her. I figured something must be wrong. Turned out Horton had been blown away. Inside, Reese showed me the security camera video. I choked as I watched the security pictures. It was Ricardo. My old wingman had planted the virus that finished Elaine, Tachikawa, and the rest. And now Horton was gone too. I wanted to grease that creep right then and there, but the recording was hours old. Ricardo had hauled his stinking carcass back to Nanosoft with Horton's Cortex chip. So much for Horton's keen military mind being Nanosoft's downfall. Now they had all his military skills to draw upon. With Horton dead, Speak was taking over. I hoped she was up to it.
I am now assuming command of this force. I know that the loss of Commander Horton has shaken us all, but if we continue with his strategy, we will prevail. We now have control of the Nanosoft Outer Dome. The next stage is to take out Nanosoft's HQ at the core of the inner domes. The entrance tunnels have been sealed, so the first phase of our attack is to regain access to these domes. Once this is achieved, we'll set up a forward base inside and continue our offensive by taking out Nanosoft's resources. The primary target will be the main power station. With their power reduced, we can launch the final offensive on the Nanosoft HQ. Mission briefings are tomorrow at 0400 hours. Good luck, everybody. Dismissed.
It looked like we'd beaten them, but I wasn't entirely happy. Ricardo was still out there somewhere, so I went to check on how the Venom's repairs were shaping up. I wanted to be sure of her if I ever ran into Ricardo again. Intelligence were starting to piece together the motives for our two aggressors. With most of the large corporations slowly starting to relinquish their power to the United Earth government, Nanosoft and Krakow decided it was time to step in and become the new top dogs. Their presidents formed a cozy little cabal to take over the soft corporations in the colonies. Instead of tedious and expensive buyouts, these charmers planned a more direct approach using state-of-the-art weaponry. With control of the colonies, the cabal could maintain a stranglehold on Earth's resources and rule unchallenged. But to achieve all of this, they first needed a quiet staging post with plenty of resources. Callisto. The only fly in the ointment was G-Police. I couldn't believe how close we'd been to going under. If Nanosoft and Krakow hadn't fallen out, their combined forces could have creamed us. Luckily for us, Nanosoft decided that there wasn't enough room at the top for both corporations and set Krakow up. By enlisting our aid to remove their former allies, Nanosoft would be in perfect shape to finish off our weakened forces. Yeah, we'd been lucky all right. We hadn't even had a sniff of Nanosoft's super weapon.
Well done, everybody. You've done an excellent job and I'm proud of you. Nanosoft's plans for corporate domination are well and truly over. The last pockets of resistance are currently being mopped up. We will remain at our present state of alert until they are all accounted for. I'll inform Earth of the situation and request a relief force as soon as we're clear of Jupiter's shadow. In the meantime, the war has resulted in a fair amount of civil unrest and disorder. Quell any subversive behavior and keep your eyes peeled for any surviving Nanosoft hostiles. I want full G-Police control on Callisto by the time the cavalry arrives. Remember, you can die just as easily in a police incident as you can in a full-blown war, so stay on your toes. Mission briefings at 0600 hours. Dismissed.